actually feel like a teacher in a classroom. I haven't been to a school in ages myself, but it's an incredible opportunity for me to be talking to educators, people coming from government departments, those from the Anganwadi centers. Thank you so much for taking out the time from your busy schedules, that too on a weekend, and joining us for this, this endeavor from Reliance Foundation, and of course my masterclass on social and behavior change. I am Sanjita Agnihotri, and I work as the director for Center for Communication and Change India, which is the sister organization for the Johns Hopkins University that is based in Baltimore in the US, and our office is in New Delhi, right? That's just a little bit about myself. I'm sorry the lights are turned off simply because this was a little dull, so we've made sure you can see it. I'll start off with firstly doing a check on the language. My slides are going to be in English, but I'm bilingual. I can speak in English and in Hindi. So हिंदी में अगर किसी को कोई चाहता है कि मैं हिंदी में बात करूं, पूरी तरह से हिंदी में नहीं बोल पाऊंगी क्योंकि कुछ टेक्निकल टर्म्स होते हैं जो आप जानते ही हैं, उसको इंग्लिश में बोलना पड़ेगा. But I'll try my best to accommodate everyone's needs, the linguistic needs at least. Yeah, so I'll begin my session now, and my session is about building a bright future using social and behavior change to enhance early childhood care and education related interventions, right? All of you are working in the discipline of education. आप सभी education के ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं, directly, indirectly, as educators, as teachers, as principals, as Anganwadi workers, maybe working in the government department as a CDPO or something else, right? Okay. I wasn't expecting this to be a full room, but I'm glad.
We are oversubscribed.
Okay. So let me start off with a very basic question. What is communication to you? What do you understand by communication? आपने communication के बारे में सुना होगा. क्या होता है communication? Anyone?
The way you would like to express yourself or talk about it. It's not only through language. It's not only through words, but even with actions, with my emotions, with signs, symbols. Even a very simple thing, when I'm walking on the road, I see signals. They're telling me, okay, wait, the red light says, wait. And when I'm going for shopping, I see those different signboards which talk about which level has what. So yeah.
Great. Anybody else? What is education? Communication?
So, very broadly, if I have to define it, I would say communication is a process of expression between two or more individuals.
Right.
Any kind of expression of thoughts, ideas, feelings is between two or more.
Right. Anybody else? Two-way exchange of ideas, of thoughts, of messages. And why do you think it is necessary? Why do we communicate at all?
Get connected.
To get connected with each other. Very simply, because we are all social beings and our social needs require us to sort of socialize with people. आपस में बातचीत नहीं करेंगे तो हम जिंदा कैसे रहेंगे, right? If we don't talk to one another, if we don't communicate effectively, there's no point of us being alive on the face of this earth, right? Now, when I talk about communication, within communication there is a discipline. Communication के अंदर एक और specialized हमारा एक discipline होता है जिसे कहते हैं social and behavior change communication. Now, anybody who's heard about social and behavior change communication, or social and behavior change, or behavior change communication, or IEC, information, education, communication? Anyone? Arjun, you have, but I wouldn't give you an opportunity to talk about it.
So I haven't heard of it, but just thought, would counseling or coaching broadly fall under something?
Yes, it does. It does.
And also, I think positive communication.
Positive communication. Great. Now you're very close to what it means. I'll just take a moment to let him settle down.
for Jen. Sure.
I hope you've settled down, sir. Good.
I'm
You
sorry.
have a place?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we were talking about communication, and within communication, social and behavior change communication. So some of you said that social and behavior change communication is about positive communication. Someone said that it's about counseling, exchanging ideas, or helping people to sort of adopt positive practices. Anything else?
Mental health and growth.
Mental health, understanding and getting yourself understood. Okay, great. But I'll not dive into exactly what SBC is right now. We'll go back to what communication is, okay? Do we all agree that communication is a process?
Yes.
Yeah? Why do you say so? Why do you think communication is a process?
It happens back and forth.
It happens back and forth. Very simply put, it happens back and forth. How many of us are married in this room? Most of us are married? Ma'am, you've been married for how many years? 30, 31. How about you? 40. So, after being married for these many years, can you say that you know your spouse 100%? Right? That's a very simple way of explaining why communication is a process. Despite being with that individual for 40, 30, 10, 5, whatever number of years, still we can't say that we know that person 100%. Because जब हम एक relationship में होते हैं, चाहे वो कोई भी relationship हो, husband wife हो, बच्चे के साथ आपकी एक माता की relationship हो, एक पिता की अपने बच्चे के साथ relationship हो, it's a never ending process. You are constantly communicating. आप रोज हर टाइम एक दूसरे से बात करते हैं, कभी बिना बात किए एक दूसरे के thoughts, feelings को समझने की कोशिश करते हैं, right? So communication is not something, it's not like we've delivered a message once and we can assume that दूसरे को समझ आ गया हो, right? So communication is a process, right? Sorry? It's dynamic, absolutely. It's ever changing because we as individuals, we as human beings, we as a society are changing, and communication needs to be tailored to our needs, right? Our dynamic needs. So communication is all about relationships. It's not just about delivery of messages as we understand it, right? Now, I'll give you a very simple example. When we go to a doctor's clinic or a hospital, you may have seen that there are several posters over there, right? We've all seen that. There are some posters that have like 10,000 words written on it. Posters आप देखते हैं ना हॉस्पिटल में, आपके सेंटर्स में भी आप देखते होंगे, उसमें कितना कुछ लिखा होता है. Have you seen anyone really going and looking through all of those messages that are written there? शायद इक्का दुक्का पढ़ के people leave, right? Okay, what is this about? Maybe it's about getting your eyes tested regularly, or maybe this is about getting your child vaccinated, right? But beyond that, nobody reads it, right? Again, now coming to the digital age of WhatsApp and social media, we get 1,000 messages every day, right? Starting from a good morning message to how are you, to have a good day, inspirational quotes,
God's
what is your
photos.
schedule, photos, God's photographs, religious messages and so on, right? So we immediately know, acha is bare mein okay. So we have our own mental filters, right? Now what happens to people we work with or we work for? Most of us here in this room are working with parents and caregivers of young children, right? Now, as a parent of of a toddler myself, I have been flooded with a huge amount of information about, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do with regards to vaccination, बच्चे को दिन में इतने बार खाना खिलाना होता है, 30 minutes बाहर के लेके जाना है खिलाने के लिए, you have to make sure that you are washing his hands regularly, you have to make sure that the child is interacting with other children, you have to integrate storytelling, you have to integrate sensory play. After a point, I shut it out. because I follow what I feel instinctively is right for my child and what I'll be able to do within my time schedule, right? Whatever I'm able to realistically do, I will do that, right? And that happens to all of us, right? Whether we are parents, caregivers, or in our professional roles, after a point we shut down to this influx of messaging. Now, when we are communicating with our parents and caregivers, how do we communicate a key benefit to them that will encourage them to adopt a positive behavior? That's what social and behavior change is all about in a nutshell, right? So I talked about communication at large, why it is important, and then I've sort of narrowed it down to social and behavior change. So when you said that, it's about positive change, it actually is about positive change, because through our messages, through our interventions, through our verbal communication in the form of counseling, we are actually encouraging parents and caregivers to adopt healthy behaviors for themselves and for their children, right? Now, communication also has another very important feature, that it does not happen in vacuum. I can't be talking to myself the whole day, right? Or I can't be just talking to you continuously in a didactic manner. I will sort of see लोग सिर हिला रहे हैं, उनके एक्सप्रेशन से पता चल रहा है कि उनको कुछ समझ आ रहा है या नहीं. We have to make sure, right? So it's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. We are constantly sort of exchanging ideas from one another. Now, here is an image of like an ant colony. When you have to sort of observe an ant's behavior, what scientists say is that you have to study the behavior of the entire ant colony, right? If you don't follow the entire colony and all the patterns, you will not be able to understand why that one ant is behaving the way it is. Similarly, for human beings also, what happens is that when we are looking at human beings and the way they behave, we have to make sure that we are looking at the social context in which they operate, right? That brings me to the point about what is social and behavior change communication. Arjun, will we have the slides available for everyone to see? Because I notice everyone is taking pictures.
If you want to.
Okay. Yeah, of course, I will share the slides. So the slides will be accessible, so please don't worry about taking notes or pictures. You will have access to this, okay? So social and behavior change, firstly, empowers individuals and communities and societies, right? To do what? To basically practice behaviors that are healthy for them, that are positive for them. And how does it work? It lowers barriers that hinder people from adopting positive practices. अगर हमें किसी की positive practices को बढ़ाना है, उनको encourage करना है, तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? जो अभी वो practice कर रहे हैं, उसको replace करना पड़ेगा, right? If my child is constantly on the phone the whole day, I will have to replace that behavior with a positive behavior, right? Maybe hand over a book to the child, maybe take the child outdoors, right? Or maybe spend time playing with the child, right? So this is what social and behavior change is doing. You are replacing people's, individuals, communities and societies at large, their behaviors, and replacing it with positive behaviors. That's what we do all the time with parents and caregivers also. We are continuously advising them on what they should do. But truth be told, they don't really follow it most of the times, unfortunately. Yeah? Yeah. So we'll figure out why that happens and what we can do. Now, as part of behavior change, we don't change people who they are as individuals. What we do is, we change the environments in which they act, making it easier for families to adopt positive practices for children. So we are not really, as an individual, if I ask you to sort of change the way you are, change the way you dress up, change the way you lead your routine, your lifestyle, your eating habits, you listen to me once or twice, right? I mean, let's talk about weight loss. All of us know how to lose weight, right? We know we have to be consistent with our diet, with our, exercise, with sleeping on time, with not staying awake with our mobile screens and so on, not taking stress. All of us know it, but do we practice it all the time? No, right? So it's not necessary that there's something wrong with me as an individual. There could be things wrong in the ecosystem that I live in. अगर एक इंसान अपना कोई बिहेवियर प्रैक्टिस कर रहा है जो उसके लिए ठीक नहीं है, तो ज़रूरी नहीं कि वो उसका दोष है. वो किस इकोसिस्टम में ऑपरेट कर रहा है वो देखना भी बहुत ज़रूरी है. बिकॉज आर बिहेवियर्स आर इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय आर फैमिलीज, where we come from, our educational background, our professions, so many other things, right? Now, again, going back to social and behavior change, it helps us to communicate with our audience. Now, audience is basically people we are working with, people who we target as part of our professional approach, right? So, social and behavior change helps us to communicate with our audience in a way that encourages them to change their current practices and adopt new positive behaviors. Remember, replacing negative behaviors with positive ones. That's what we are doing as part of social and behavior change. Now, how do we communicate? We all know this. There are a variety of ways in which communication happens. It's verbal communication between 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever individuals. That is one face-to-face communication. But when we are dealing with large masses of people, we are using print media, we are using newspapers, we are using magazines, we are using a variety of print media, right? We are also using mass media like radio and television, right? We are also using theatre, SMS, tweets, social media. So many platforms are there to actually reach out with positive behaviors to parents and caregivers of young children, right? It's really up to us and also to understand what fits their needs, and we can choose the platform accordingly. Now, who do we communicate with? Who is our audience? This is very important. Like I said at the beginning of this masterclass, for most of us, our audience is parents and caregivers of young children. हम सभी छोटे बच्चों के पेरेंट्स के साथ ही काम कर रहे हैं, whether it's 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 8, right? So here I've sort of highlighted, just presented in front of you what are the potential audience. When I say the word audience, these are some of the people, some of which are actually in the room. For example, educators, subject experts, government departments, and so on. But mostly we are working with these two groups, right? Parents and caregivers. Now, when we look at our audience, when we say parents and caregivers of children between 3 to 6 years, is it a homogeneous group? Do you think one size fits all? No, right? But what happens when we are designing our interventions? That time we design it for one size fits all, right? And I'll give you some examples of that also towards the end of my presentation. But the idea is that people have different tastes, people have different perspectives. So we have to firstly take off our own lens, wear the audience's lens to understand what they are going through, right? So to persuade others, we need to think about various angles of reality. What may be right for me may not be right for my audience member, right? So we have to sort of get rid of our own personal biases when we are dealing with our audience. There are definitely different worldviews, which means people have different ways of looking at the same thing, okay? If I give out the message that please make sure your child, so as an educator, as a teacher, I observe that this child is very, very distracted, right? And I assume that it could be because of excessive mobile phone or screen. And I tell the parent that you have to make sure that your child does not practice any kind of, phone-related behavior, right? You can't hand over any kind of digital device. What do you think the parent is going to do? Maybe for a day.
Options. Like
Yes.
Instead of phone, you can give like storybook and take it out.
Right.
It's another.
Right. Maybe once or twice, maybe a couple. Yes, please go ahead. Sorry.
If we don't give them alternatives and suggestions on what to do, within 4 or 5 days, the telephone and iPad will be back in front of the kid.
Exactly.
And the kid will be chilling with it.
Absolutely, this happens all the time, right? 1 or 2 days, we'll be very strict. As a parent, we'll be very strict. You know, teacher said this.
And the kid will throw an appropriate tantrum. So
Yeah,
there will be a
absolutely.
challenge.
The child will
So
have
there will be a
withdrawal
fight,
symptoms,
but then
as
you
we
say,
call
oh,
it.
the child has its own brain and we must respect the child.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what happens, right? We are not replacing it with the alternative behavior. Now, as a parent, my mindset also is very different, right? So today I feel, okay, the teacher has told that, you know, it's not good for my child to have a mobile phone all the time. But eventually, you know, I'm coming back tired from my workplace.
Finish.
And I feel like, oh, I can't take this any longer. I'm myself drained out. This is the easiest way to engage my time. Here you go. Now you want to spend 1 hour, half an hour,
Finish.
it's up to you.
Forever.
It's
Yeah.
a choice that the parent has.
Exactly.
Whether it's good, bad, not good, that's all
Absolutely.
circumstantial.
So that's what we are saying, that there are different angles of looking at the same thing. Some parents may feel very, very concerned about it. They may immediately drop that behavior, may take out additional time from their, you know, schedule if time permits, and engage with their child more sort of in nature-based activities, play-based activities, or whatever, some kind of an alternate. But there could be some parents who would be like, क्या बोल रही है टीचर? सब बच्चे यूज करते हैं आजकल. What's new about this? Look around. I mean, all kids are on the mobile phones these days, right?
And
What's
you may
new?
also think their child has a head start in handling that because
Yeah,
they are
yeah.
too good at handling it. They can
Yeah,
go
and
to their
also-
story.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, a lot of parents even say that storytelling and all, ये हमारे time की बात थी, it's redundant now.
No.
Because every child is using a mobile phone. So if I don't hand over my mobile phone to my child, they are losing out on that necessary digital skill development, isn't it? So they have all kinds of arguments. So what I'm trying to say is that no parent is similar. So we have to look at things from their angle or their perspective, right? Here is an example, sorry, I'm obstructing your view. Who's right here? Both are right.
Amazing.
It's just their way of looking at things, right? Both are right. This guy will say it's 3, that guy will say no, it's 4 logs. It's not 3. But who's right, who's wrong, who gets to decide? Yeah? Here is another one. What do you see first? A young lady or an old lady?
Since I'm an old lady.
You see a child, see? Not just young and old, you even see a child in this picture. So I'm not going to tell you what exactly this is, but it depends on your perspective, your lens of looking at things. Agree or disagree? Right? So this happens with every one of us, all individuals across the world. We all have different ways of looking at things and there are no right and wrong, right? So how do we communicate effectively in such a scenario? That's very, very critical. We need to empathize with the audience, right? We all know what empathy is. Anyone? What is empathy?
Do unto others what you want others to do to you. Perhaps.
Yes.
Put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Stepping into the other person's shoes so that you are able to look at things from their point of view, right? Can I get a volunteer? Anyone? Yeah, come. So you have to step into my shoes and I have to step into your shoes, right? How do we do that? What do we start with?
We just introduce ourselves.
Okay, yeah, so
So I'm Sangeeta, I'm from the Center of Education and I've been a part of this institute for a very long time. I've come from Delhi. I've come here to talk about social behavior change.
okay, so you were playing my part.
Yeah.
No, you have to play your part.
I thought we just
I was wondering, okay, how come there are 2 directors? And we have to step into each other's shoes. No, we have to physically step into each other's shoes is what I meant. Sorry about that.
So I'm Lavina, I've come from Shivnada School, Noida, and this is a workshop that I'm attending for 2 days.
Great.
It's a privilege to be here.
Great. You all know me. I don't need to introduce myself. Now we have to exchange our shoes. So what is the first action that we have to do?
We need to remove our shoes.
Exactly. it's very easy to say that step into the audience's shoes, step into the other person's shoes. But what do we have to do ourselves? We have to take off our own shoe. So let's do that, Lavina. I'm going to take off my sandal and you take off yours. Okay? Yeah. Now let's try to. No, this is okay. This is okay. You come. Just try wearing this. Is it comfortable?
The wrong foot.
It's the wrong foot, okay. The size,
Strap is
yeah.
a problem. The size is a problem. And I don't like heels.
And you don't like heels. Yeah.
I
So-
don't fit into
You don't fit into my
I
shoes.
don't understand.
This is exactly what happens, isn't it? So when we are stepping into, sorry, go ahead. Thank you so much. So this is exactly what happens when we are trying to fit into the other person's shoes. Yeah? There are always issues. जब हम दूसरे की तरफ से देखते हैं चीज़ों को, तो सब कुछ बहुत अलग लगता है. क्या ऐसे कैसे सोच सकते हैं? ऐसा how can they even think like this, right? There are some very bizarre things that people talk about, think about, which are bizarre to us, but from their point of view, it's absolutely right. Yes, please.
May I ask you a question? We spoke about empathy. I broke my 5th metatarsal in Tokyo, 1.5 months into training.
Okay.
And I had put in everything to go there, train for 3 months and come back stronger than ever. But here I was with a broken bone, the last bone of the foot above the toe, the 5th metatarsal, and broken. Now, I was upset and all that my coach did was put a hard bandage round and said, you're okay,
Done.
go. And you'll be okay. So I said, no X-ray, nothing. I didn't have money, I didn't have insurance. So I went down. Now I thought everyone would say, oh, how sad, what has happened to you? No one said anything. People came, how are you? Oh, you broke your bone. It's okay, come on, let's go out. So literally without crutches, I'm hobbling on the inside of my foot and going for dinner. So there was no, how are you feeling, what's wrong from anyone. It's difficult for me now to
No
react in
sympathy,
any
let
other
alone
way.
empathy.
So for me to react to
Yeah.
others and say, oh my darling, we'll put it in a cast and it's difficult for me because I've been through it and I know कि ठीक हो जाएगा यार आगे चल. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now,
There was a question. What was the question actually?
the question is, where does this balance come in,
Yeah.
Was not giving me sympathy correct? Because immediately I had to get on with it. Immediately. Next day, I hobbled 1 kilometer, went to a oversized shoe store, bought second-hand shoes or whatever I did, wore 17 size over 15 with the bandage inside. The day after that, I started working in a Indian restaurant. It was painful, man. But nobody showed any sympathy. Just do it. And I was chasing flies with a tennis racket and with a broken foot in the restaurant because they said we don't want flies here. So now for
I get
me
it.
to tell someone, "Ke, Arey Baba, tera toot gaya." Now what
So-
to do in this scenario? How to balance this empathy versus no empathy?
Yeah.
That's my
So, we are very sorry you had to go through all of that, firstly. And secondly, what I'm trying to say here is that it's difficult. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell everyone, that when we say empathy, it's very easy in a masterclass to say that, step into the audience's shoes, look at everything from their perspective. But there are processes. You can't empathize with everyone all the time. But in our professions, we are expected to, because if we don't, then our interaction, our interventions are not going to be effective enough, right?
Can be trained to be empathetic.
Exactly. We can be trained to be empathetic. There are processes that can help us practice empathy. It's not just like communication, it's a process. You can't say that I'm 100% empathetic, right? So you can't really say that, oh, I did a course on empathy, so I'm qualified to be empathetic to anyone who walks into my life. That doesn't work, right? So, like any other emotion, like any other feeling, empathy is also something that we build over time. And it's not needed all the time, right? Some places you just need some kind of a, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to empathize with each and every parent that walks into your class with a problem. Sometimes you have to be sort of very straightforward and assertive with what the problem is, right? So it's really up to you what your approach is. There is no right or wrong, like I said. It truly depends on what the audience's demand is at that point in time, and that's how you sort of decide as a professional what will work best for my patient. Yeah? Okay. Anyway, we'll move on. Now, there's a lot of emphasis on being audience-centric, right? Some of you may have heard about human-centered, be human-centered. Whenever you're designing, let's say, some kind of a training module or, education module or whatever it may be, right? Now, our audiences will actually, when I talk about parents and caregivers of young children, our audiences look like this, right? This is a young person, a young mother, a young father, a grandfather, right? Do you think they all have the same needs? No, right? So let's take an example of audience segmentation. So essentially, social and behavior change communication is a very vast topic, but because there is paucity of time, and this is just sort of an introduction to SBCC for all of you, I'm going to talk about two concepts related to audiences and how you can empathize better with your audience groups, right? So first thing first is audience segmentation. It is very important that when we are interacting or dealing with our audiences, whether as a regular thing or as part of an intervention, we need to segment them into logical groups, right? What does segmenting means? Audience segmentation essentially categorizes audiences into logical groups to enhance a better fit. We all agree that one size does not fit all, okay? So we have to make sure that we segment our audiences in such a way that we are able to give out information that works best for that group. Okay? And how we do that? Why we do that? Because we have limited time and resources, right? It's not necessary that I worked on some kind of intervention that's going to work for all parents, all caregivers, everyone. It's not going to happen, right? We also have limited resources. I mean, we don't have unlimited budgets or unlimited time to work on our intervention, so we have to balance that very well. There is also a trade-off between reach and intensity, which means if you want to reach a lot of people at the same time, for example, mass media campaigns you may have seen. You all remember that campaign about, polio, Do Boon Zindagi Ke, right? It's a branding message. It's for parents and caregivers of young children, right, under 5 years of age. It's saying the same thing for everyone, right? But within parents and caregivers, there is a variety of audience. Some may not even understand what Do Boon Zindagi Ke is. Maybe someone is there whose child is already suffering from polio. So there is a whole spectrum of parents and caregivers. But हमने एक large campaign बना दिया है Do Boon Zindagi Ke. It may work, it may not work, but reach बहुत अच्छी है because we have a great brand ambassador who most Indians know, right? Most Indians, I would say, understand the language in which it is given. It's simple. So there are positives and negatives, right? But if we have to reach a group with a specific message, then intensity has to go up, which means reach कम होगी. हम ज़्यादा लोगों को अगर let's say we are holding a master class today, okay? I'm talking about audience segmentation. So this is a very exclusive group, right? But tomorrow if I have to give a keynote address, my presentation is not going to be as in-depth as it is for you here, because I've been given like 1.5 hours to talk about this. Tomorrow if I have to give a keynote address addressing thousands of people, then it will just be 5-10 minutes about social behavior change is important, segment your audience and blah blah blah, that's it, right? So there is difference between, we have to balance between reach and intensity. And next, like I've been saying, different people have different information needs. So whatever programs we develop, whatever interventions we plan with our audience, we have to make sure that they are addressing the needs of different audience groups within the homogeneous group of parents and caregivers. And finally, people have different tastes, values, needs, desires, and so on. I am not saying you can cater to all of it. Okay, that is impossible. But at least we can try to cater to, let's say, 50% of it. Whatever is within our reach, at least we can try to do that much. Different people have different tastes. Now, how do we communicate messages that encourage our audience to practice positive behaviors? How do we do that? Now, we've talked so much about SBCC, social behavior change, and people have different needs, empathy, and so on. But how do we actually communicate messages that encourage our audience to practice positive behaviors? Let's take the example of outdoor play, okay? Which unfortunately is sort of going down because of a lot of reasons. There isn't enough infrastructure, busy lifestyle, urban infrastructure all around us. You know, back in the day, you know, all of us, I'm sure, we all come from different generations, but essentially if we compare ourselves to the kids from today's generation, it's very different, vastly different. The amount of time we spend outdoors versus what they spend outdoors is, I mean, I can't even compare the two, right? Now, here is an example. I'm actually going to give you a series of examples. Can one of you read this, please? Anyone? Anyone who's able to see it?
I is 29 years old mother of 5-year-old twin boys, Farzan and Farhan. She lives in Kasba, Pune, with her in-laws, husband and children. She aspires to give her twin boys a good education so that they eventually crack the prestigious civil service exam. In addition to regularly her taking them to school, she has brought them a laptop to watch educational videos and participate in online quiz competitions. She feels taking them outdoors is a waste of time and will distract them from their studies. Further, there is no play area around her house, and the parklet is the nearby area is currently used as a garbage dumping ground. Sana watches daily soaps and is an active member of a local self-help group.
Right? So, does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
The story of Sana?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, she is a regular mother from a, let's say, a lower middle class family who has twins Farhan and Farzan, and she has very strong aspirations for them, like all Indian parents, like all parents in general, right? She wants her sons to join civil services, and for that she is ready to sort of do anything and everything. She recently got them a digital device so that they can watch educational videos, because she feels that मेरा बच्चा अगर educational videos देख रहा है और बच्चों की तरह time spend कर रहा है YouTube के videos देख के, Byju's के videos देख के, so he's actually learning a lot, right? And if I don't do that from an early age, it's not really going to help. इतना बड़ा अगर goal achieve करना है तो अभी से start करना पड़ेगा, right? Unfortunately, outdoors when she sees the environment, जो पार्क है, अगर वो चाहे भी खेलने के लिए कि मैं अपने बच्चों को लेके जाऊं, the space is not conducive. It's a garbage dump. So why would she take her child there, right? So if you see the story, there are plenty of barriers here, right? Plenty of behavioral barriers. If we have to encourage a parent like Sana to take her children outdoors for 30 minutes every day, there are a lot of things we will have to fix here. Okay? Sorry. Now, next, just in the interest of time, I will read it out. Next is the story of Amit, who's, you know, a 35-year-old bank manager and a father of a 3-year-old boy, Parth. He lives with his homemaker wife, Lata, in Bandra, Mumbai, and he has a very busy working schedule, 6 days a week, and is exhausted after returning home, like most of us. Yeah. He gets to spend limited time with his son Parth, mostly during family outings or grocery shopping to the nearby supermarket on weekends. While he loves to spend time with his son, due to his busy work schedule, he leaves early when his son is asleep and returns late around dinner time. During the limited time he spends with Parth, he gives in to his request of playing games or watching rhymes on his mobile phone. What I was talking about, right? The parent is busy, the parent is exhausted, the parent perhaps doesn't even have that level of awareness that giving this mobile phone is not right for my child. He believes that caregiving and engaging with young children is primarily a mother's responsibility. and that his wife Lata should play a proactive role in their son's upbringing. So there is another social norm here. He has that mindset that in addition to the generic issues that are there with most of us deal with, he also feels that, look, I'm the man of the house, it's not my responsibility. My wife, she's sitting at home the whole day, what is she doing? That's a common question that, we come across. Amit is a sports and nature lover and would love to spend more time outdoors with his family, taking regular breaks from his otherwise sedentary lifestyle. He would love to do that like all of us. All of us want to go on a vacation, but that's a, distant dream. Now let's come to Madan Lal, who's the grandfather, a 68-year-old grandfather who's a resident of Ahmedabad, and he has 2 grandchildren, Anant and Avni. He loves his grandchildren and enjoys playing with them at home. But the other thing is that he's also part of a senior citizens group in a nearby community center, and he sees that just like him, there are several other grandparents who have grandchildren and they love to spend time with them. They even bring them outdoors. But he is scared of bringing his grandchildren outdoors. Why? Because he feels that bringing children outdoors, small children particularly, is not good for their health. Particularly post-COVID, there has been a rise in this phenomena where a lot of people have developed this kind of a fear that, if children are playing outdoors, तो कुछ ना कुछ बीमारी catch कर लेंगे, viral का season फैला हुआ है, इस बीमारी का season फैला है, dengue फैला है. There are so many, such diseases, seasonal diseases that keep coming and going. And he also feels that, the community center itself is not safe because there are all kinds of speeding vehicles and so on. Right? So I need to protect my children. I'm not going to bring them outdoors. वो भागेंगे दौड़ेंगे मैं कैसे उनके साथ जाऊँ? Right? Yeah. Okay, so this is another person. Now we have an Anganwadi worker. Okay, she is from Jaipur and she has been working in this Anganwadi center for 18 years. Okay, and she really wants to do a lot for her Anganwadi center. Recently she went to Bombay, just like all of you. ये बॉम्बे में एक एक्सपोजर विजिट के लिए गए जहाँ इन्होंने एक बहुत अच्छा आंगनवाड़ी सेंटर देखा and she had a lot of good ideas that she wanted to implement at her आंगनवाड़ी center in Jaipur. But there are resource constraints, there are other kind of issues. She has also noticed that छोटे बच्चे और उनके parents जो वहाँ आते हैं, they prefer sending their children to preschools and so on because they feel आंगनवाड़ी सेंटर में तो कुछ नहीं सिखाते, कुछ खास नहीं सिखाते. या घर पे बच्चे को मोबाइल पे वीडियो लगा के दे दो तो वो ज़्यादा कुछ सीखेगा, आंगनवाड़ी सेंटर में शायद इतना नहीं सीखेगा. So these are some challenges and these are all hypothetical examples which are in a way presenting the real life challenges that we face, all of us face, right? So are they all same? No. Do they have the same needs?
No.
They don't. But when we talk about them, we put them in this homogeneous group of parents and caregivers of young children. And we assume what their needs are. Right? Now, one very critical insight about people's behavior is that when we interact with the audience, remember, we are only looking at the tip of the iceberg. Okay? Today, when you are looking at me as a presenter in a master class, you will just know 4 or 5 things about me. Okay? I'm the director, this is my name, I come from this organization, I spoke about social and behavior change, maybe 1 or 2 more things that you observed, liked or disliked, and that's the end of it. But when we go beneath the waterline, that's when we get to see what the real challenges are. And for that, research is needed. Okay? So we always say that whenever we are working on behavioral interventions or whenever we want to make our interventions more effective, we have to not only empathize, but we also have to get into evidence. Okay, it's a process, it's a scientific process. It's not just, randomly chit-chatting with people and sort of figuring out what their behavioral issues are, because if we start doing that, there are plenty of parents, you can't do it with everyone. But systematically trying to figure out what are the behavioral challenges, what are the values system, belief system, what are the challenges, desires, needs, aspirations, right? Remember those 3 examples that I just gave you? They are all caregivers, but they all have different needs, different aspirations. We all are dealing with the same issue, which is outdoor play, but challenges are very different, right? So we need to sort of explore a little further, dig down a little deeper, right? And here comes a very, very significant model. It's called the socio-ecological model. I won't get into the details of it, but what I said in the very beginning, which is that all of us as individuals, our behaviors are an outcome of the ecosystem in which we live, right? So this model actually shows how an individual is in the middle of these concentric circles, right? And then there are interpersonal relationships, which is with partners, families and peers, with the community, which is organizations, services, and then with enabling environment, for example, policies, the overall social norms that dictate the way we behave in the society, and so many more things. So in sabhi ka ek milke impact banta hai on the way we are as individuals, right? If there is a policy level issue, we as educators can't do anything about it, right? So we can't beat ourselves around that, oh, because there's some issue, तो हम ये नहीं कर पा रहे, नहीं हो सकता. So behavioral interventions are not just about dealing and talking to or interacting with parents and caregivers. It's also much more than that. It starts from the policy level, essentially creating a conducive environment to be able to practice that behavior. Let's say there's a policy that says that each school in the entire country has to ensure a 1-hour session on storytelling every day or once a week. If there is a mandate, if there is a policy, that is creating a conducive environment to practice that behavior, right? It definitely gives that push, right? So that's just an example. But we often see the world and other people through our own mental models, right? Again, and what is a mental model? Just like, an operating system of let's say a Windows PC, there's Word, there's PowerPoint, Excel, and so many other programs. But our brain's operating system, our own mental models, our own biases are a product of our culture, our education, our training, personal experience, and religion. So we need to be wary of all this when we are dealing with and interacting with parents and caregivers. Now this is the last concept that I want to talk about today, which is steps to behavior change. Now first was segmenting your audiences according to their needs, according to their where they come from, background, educational background, occupation, needs, aspirations, desires, all of that, right? Now we come to steps to behavior formation. Like I said, communication is a process, okay? It is something that you have to do over and over again if you want the outcome as a behavior change. Today, if I tell you, go to sleep at 10 o'clock and you will become much more youthful if you practice this behavior for 1 month. 1 or 2 days you will do it and then you'll be like, what rubbish is she talking about, right? So we have to sort of know our audience in a way that what level are they at right now? Pre-knowledge. Again, I'm taking the example of mobile phone usage among young children because this cuts through, it's a cross-cutting example. All of us can see it in our own houses also. These are the kind of posters that you see commonly, right? Please be present for your child, don't use a mobile phone. No cell phone you will use in this classroom. This classroom is a no cell phone zone. Thank you for your cooperation. We've seen this. Mostly we've seen these kind of posters, right? But the readers or the audience for these messages are very different. Some people are at the pre-knowledge level. That means they are not even aware that this is a problem. That excessive mobile phone usage among children is a problem. उसको ऐसा पोस्टर क्या समझ आएगा? उसको लगेगा ये तो प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है. Doesn't make a difference to me, doesn't matter, right? So at this level, individual is unaware of the problem at all. Pre-knowledge, knowledge नहीं है. Okay? Example, parents are not aware about the risks of mobile phone usage among young children. Next is प्री नॉलेज से नॉलेज पे आप कैसे लाए? आपने उनको बताया कि देखो भाई, आप अपने बच्चे को दिन रात के लिए मोबाइल फोन नहीं दे सकते. You can't do that because it's not good for their mental health, for their cognitive development, emotional well-being and so on. So at least now they know. तो आप उनको next step पे ले आए of knowledge. Next you bring them to approval. ज़रूरी नहीं है just because we have knowledge about something we approve of that behavior. This is very important to understand. Oftentimes what we do as professionals, we simply feel अरे बताया तो था उस parent को उस दिन, रिपोर्ट कार्ड में लिख के तो दिया था, उस दिन मैसेज डाला था ना व्हाट्सएप में पेरेंट्स ग्रुप में, पढ़ा नहीं आपने. दिस हैपेंस, राइट? बिकॉज वी अज्यूम दैट जस्ट बिकॉज वी हैव गिवन द इंफॉर्मेशन they approve of it and they are going to practice that behavior. That does not happen. Okay, so the next level of after knowledge is approval, where individual approves of that behavior. For example, parents agree that excessive mobile phone usage will lead to overstimulation, poor mental health, poor emotional well-being and so on, right? अब approve करा दिया behavior, now we have to go on to the next step of intention, right? I approve of it, but I'm not very sure if I want to practice it. Or there may be challenges in practicing, right? So then you have to work on the intent of the individual, right? Example, parents plan to practice outdoor play. अब तक knowledge थी, approval भी था कि हाँ ये अच्छी चीज़ हमें करनी चाहिए. Now we are thinking, okay, maybe twice a week parents discuss that 2 दिन तुम लेके जाओ बाहर खिलाने, 2 दिन मैं लेके जाऊँ. Okay, उससे मोबाइल फोन यूजेज कम हो. Then is practice. This is the time they start practicing that behavior. Okay, so you see, आपने सोचा था कि आपने एक मैसेज डाल दिया तो नॉलेज से सीधा प्रैक्टिस पे आएगा, but no, there are so many steps in between, right? And then finally, practice ही सब कुछ नहीं है. We have to take them to a level where they are also advocating that behavior to others, right? Because we are all social beings, we are living in a social jungle, we copy each other, we have peer pressure. अगर हमारे कुछ friends अच्छा जिनको हम सोचते हैं they are doing well or whatever, we feel let's also do the same, right? But what we do, we make such kind of interventions as posters. I'm just using the example of poster, right? So remember, people have different needs. These are the different steps people are at. Don't assume that all parents are the same. This one size does not fit all. I'm sure many of you have seen this, right? This guy says, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Can the elephant do it? No. But that does not mean the elephant is incompetent, does not have any skills. Can the monkey do it? Very well. He thrives in doing that. Can the dog do it? Can the poor seal do it? No. Right? So we have to tailor our selection process in this example accordingly. So one size does not fit all. Communication is a process. It's all about relationship building and not just about delivery of messages. And finally, it's very, very critical. This is the foundational value system that we have to empathize with the audience. That's the end of my masterclass. Thank you.